Welcome everybody to this video. Today is the 4th of June in 2013 and we are here in Pretoria, South Africa. And I'm here together with, and I start here on my left with Catherine Odora Hoppers, who is a professor at the University of South Africa. And to my right is one of her former students. Her name is Cebisa. And I've trained to say that for a long time and I still cannot really pronounce it, and she will explain also her family names. And then we have Howard Richards with us, who is a philosopher of social science. And we are here now gathered to listen to what Cebisa can share with us. How you came to Catherine's chair, please share with us your full name first, because I have already forgotten.
I'm going to say something about Umoja. I'm looking forward to the part about Umoja. No, she's not?
Immersion.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. My name is Cebisa. My maiden name is Ntantala, and my surname now is Nkhumeleni. And I come from a very small town, or rather a village in the Eastern Cape, where I grew up with my mother. We are a family of 3, and my mother, my sister, myself, and my brother. We were nurtured and had a background of a single mother. I then studied there in Transkei. Then I went to Cape Town to do my first degree, which is an undergraduate degree. Then Stellenbosch to do my honors.
And what subject was it?
Which one?
The first degree.
The first degree was just a BA, but I majored in psychology.
Psychology.
Yes. Then I did my honors on sustainable development, and I majored there in renewable energy studies. Then I came to Gauteng, where I worked for the National Research Foundation. I worked there for almost 4 years. And the National Research Foundation is actually managing the funds, the national funds for research for the South African universities. Within the time there, I was always bothered by things that are happening in any other organizations, that we tend to talk about things that we do not actually practice in terms of...
I'm sorry, I think we are now a little bit off. Yes. Yeah.
In terms of, how the policies are being implemented. And there were so many things that I didn't like that were happening in terms of what the mandate of the National Research Foundation was all about. It's then that I decided to get out of the system. And fortunately at that time I had a former colleague who was at UNISA. And we had a chat about so many things, and eventually said to me, I think you need to meet someone.
Wow.
And said,
someone was you, I'm sure.
And he said to me, Professor Hoppers, needless to say, I thought Professor Hoppers was a white male.
Oh, really? Imagine.
And I thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to talk to? What am I going to say to a white male? Because one of the issues that we have at the National Research Foundation at that time was the dominance of white male professors.
Right.
So if I'm coming with my problem to this
Right.
white male,
What
is he going to say?
I won't say anything.
Then I went to the office and I saw a very tall, dark lady. And I was at, is this Professor
Hoppers? Where's Professor Hoppers?
Very astonished.
And I was told this was Professor Hoppers. We had a very brief discussion about issues, affecting South Africa as a country, and Africa as a continent. But she really understood where I was coming from. She actually could relate to my being unsettled with so many issues that our country was facing at that time and during this time. So she agreed that I should be her master's student, and I did. And one of the things that I remember when I got there was the fact that I could not speak. By speaking, I'm saying perhaps it's the way I grew up, growing up with a single mother, in a village. You don't, come to say so many things to your mother or to your siblings. So you grow up bottling things in your, within you, and I could not be articulate in so many things. I grew up writing poems. I grew up writing my feelings most of the time because I felt there was no one to listen to me most of the time, and I didn't find any reason to speak about my troubles to anyone because, we think differently as people, and my siblings are not people who are close to being scholars, and so I bottled up so many things. But one of the things that Professor Hoppers taught me within the time that I was with SARChI was to speak out, to be articulate, to voice out, to think, to have thoughts about things and think broadly and abstractly about things and be able to voice out. And she gave me the space where I could do that, because you might as well be able to speak out, but if the environment doesn't allow you to do that, it is useless. So whatever thought that I had, I could share it with her and with other students around. And that actually made me grew stronger, one, in my family, because I've always taken the second place within a social standing where I'll always not voice out my concerns. And I could be able to voice out things to my kids. I could be able to voice out things to my husband. I could always stand up for myself from my family or whoever, within the social standing. And in turn, I could relate to people being uncomfortable around me because I stand as a person who's probably, a back, or who doesn't really care about other people. But Professor Hoppers taught me within giving me a space to be free. And I've learned to give that back to other people. That when you're around me, you need to be in a space where you can freely be around me and freely be a person that you want to be, because that is what I got from SARChI. Secondly, I've learned that it's funny because you grow up and you listen to people talking, professors talking, and they make this academic thing a big deal. It's like it's unreachable. And Professor Hoppers has been able to make our journey through our studies a truthful journey. It might be an academic writing, it might be a writing that concerns literature and other sorts of methodologies, but she taught us that it should come from here.
Wow.
She told us...
This is what you said yesterday with Immersion. Also, that you learned, that you gave, want to give space first, so that this articulation can grow. And this you call immersion. So that at the end there is this space, so that you can then speak truthfully.
Catherine spoke yesterday about the students coming to her wounded, and through the immersion process you somehow work through and overcome the woundedness.
Yes, because I still remember I had a draft of I had a draft, about 90 pages,
Yes. Quite a
That's
big
quite
draft.
She ate everything.
I had everything sorted out. It was like, but I don't remember using many of those pages into my final work.
No.
Wow.
You know, I learned to my voice came out. My voice, my inner voice just gradually came out, and I was able to, you know, to bring together the academic writing and what I feel inside, which really.
You've been using the word voice a lot, and I'd like to remind you of what a famous philosopher said about a voice. It was Aristotle. Aristotle said a voice is a sound made by a being with a soul.
Wow. Wow.
Wonderful.
That's quite true. That's quite true. So yeah, it has been a journey. It has been a journey, and meeting different people, you know, from different disciplines, you know, being able to sit, because in an academic setting, you find that there are these discrepancies, you know, within people, you know, especially with postgraduate students, where you cannot be able to approach a doctoral student or a master's student or your professor. I could go to Professor Hoppers anytime, with or without an appointment, and be able to relate, whether it's my writing, whether it's my social, whatever that I could be.
So it was a
I
true
could
family
be.
building.
Yes, it has been a very, very true family. And that has actually made me a confident woman. You know, I have been a little bit aggressive in my life because I did not have that confidence. I've actually now seen that, and aggressive people don't have confidence.
I never thought of that before. I think at my age I would have thought of that already.
I've seen
You were
that,
aggressive because you didn't have
I
confidence.
didn't have
course,
confidence, but now I'm able to approach situations, you know, in a very, perhaps sometimes aggressively, but I know I've got a grounding. It's not about being aggressive because you want to deter problems from you, or you want to shift away problems for you. It is because you know that this is what is right and this is what is wrong. You know what you want as a person. I've never thought I will be able to do a doctoral in my life.
So you have finished.
I have finished my master's.
And what
yes.
is, you have finished your master's, and now?
And now I have enrolled with the University of Bath in UK, and I am doing a doctoral in business administration, and our focus is on higher education management.
So have you followed up at all on renewable energy?
No, no, not yet. Perhaps in my next life.
You could do
My interest has been always on, you know, policy formulation and policy implementation within the higher education system, because I think we need a very innovative way, or a turnaround in how our higher education system is being managed.
Well, that could come back to renewable energy. You could end up administering universities that have to do something about energy.
Perhaps, yes.
What I also want to highlight, what I really think that many people don't appreciate, is that time is needed. This is what you emphasized yesterday, you know, that you first give your students time. You don't push them directly into something, you know?
And on that, we had a lot of quarrels and a lot of...
Really?
Yes, because I needed her to come to her truth. Oh, no. She was saying, I need to write my thesis. I said, no. Just relax. But she didn't understand what I meant by
relax.
Yes.
Well, I didn't either. I'm someone else who's never understood what Catherine meant by relaxing. And I very slowly learned about time from Catherine. I'm the sort of person who always wants to do everything at once. And Catherine has a wonderful sense of when. And sometimes it seems to me to be just taking a very long time. Then I realized that, Jacques Lacan was right. I don't know if you know about Jacques Lacan, but he's someone who talks about the therapy process. And the most important thing is not what you say, but when you say it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Evelin must know about that, having practiced that.
Yes.
No, and being a Lacan student also.
Oh, yes.
Of course. My first dissertation was on Lacan and Lévi-Strauss and all that kind of French intellectual milieu at that time.
And it's so important the time to draw conclusions.
Yes.
You mustn't draw the conclusion too soon. You have to find the time for it.
To mature, to grow.
I've never understood that. It's probably too late now for me to understand it, but I'm trying to understand it.
So what are your comments like? How would you explain that? If you now had students, the students of the world are now listening to you, what do you tell them?
Oh, what I can say is that, as Prof. Howard has said, there's time for everything. And if I were to supervise students now, I would really be in a position to understand. And hence I'm saying perhaps that has been my interest all along, to actually try and be a vessel of transformation within the higher education system, because we are so stereotyped within institutions.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter which discipline, as Professor Hoppers has said.
Absolutely. They're all discipliners.
So I would really want to see the higher education system being transformed, and for us to be better people.
And how did you, the process of understanding this slowness or the need for maturation, for inner growth, how did this manifest in you?
I think as you sit with Professor Hoppers and within that space that she gives you, you surely and slowly understand, because once you sit back and relax and take time to think about things, you have a totally different perspectives on how to do things, on how to think, and how to actually start writing. Then it becomes a slow but progressive process.
So, when you have now in front of you a student like you were in the beginning, how did you start to understand? How did you relax? If you want like that, you are not relaxed. How did you relax?
It would be funny, because we would be talking about books and it would be like, yeah, Cebisa, and shift to another topic, which has got nothing to do with my writing, which has got nothing to do with anything, and we would end up laughing. And you go back to your office and you think about what you were talking about. You think about so many things that you have shared with Professor Hoppers, and I think that's how you get to relax. And the experience of my other colleagues as well, sit down with them and try and understand what Professor Hoppers is saying to you guys, and you try and follow suit.
So one of your methodologies is confusing your students.
Exactly.
In the beginning, get them off track.
Yes. Exactly.
And I think one thing that has really helped us is with the coming of all the emeritus professors and the retreats.
Yes.
When you go out there, you sit back and think, no, you have to digest whatever they've said, all the presentations, and you start, at that moment that you need to relax.
So how much time did it take for you to really grasp that? 1 year, 2 years?
Almost 2.5 years.
Yes.
2.5
but
years.
the writing of the thesis took place just in the
Final,
yes.
about 8 months.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So the time, 2.5 years of kind of
Of
broadening.
broadening up.
This
Yes.
is the other
Exactly.
methodology, but
Yes.
enlargement. You enlarged her
Yes.
space.
Exactly.
And then
I
from that
think-
enlargement, you could narrow down a
Yes.
path very quickly.
Very quickly.
I think this is so important, and I see it every day at the University of Santiago, where we have a system which I think is common throughout the world, that people get a grant to write a doctorate. But the grant only lasts for 3 years.
Yes.
So that means in 3 years you have to write a doctorate.
Yes.
So you don't have time to think.
Exactly.
You think about, Michel Foucault took 10 years to write his doctorate. Paul Samuelson took 6 or 7. I think almost all of the great scholars who've written great doctoral dissertations have
Exactly.
taken a long time.
Exactly.
But now, if you have to do it in 3 years, if you don't do it in 3 years, then
No money.
then there's no money. And so what does that mean? It means, well, I have to frame a hypothesis. I have to select my sample.
Yes.
I have to find my instrument to
Right.
measure my sample.
I have to
And then
make
have to-
interviews. I have to collect data.
I have to collect the data.
Exactly.
And then I have to run it through the computer and get the statistical results. And then I have to write a final chapter interpreting my results just on the last day of the last year.
Right.
I get my interpretation, my results written.
Exactly.
And what do you get? I kid you not, if you look at the databases that the new dissertations around the world, you'll find 90% of them are these sort of cookbook
Right.
doctorates,
Right.
which are churned out by this
Right.
machine,
Right.
which is a mindless machine.
Right.
So you've been saved by Catherine.
Yes.
I hope you don't
Right.
step back into it again when you get into it.
Exactly.
But you get into
I
your
hope so.
doctorate.
No, we need you to revolutionize the whole entire academic system over in all countries, everywhere in the world, because it's the same trend everywhere.
Well, I don't know, but
I live globally, I know.
oh, you know.
Yeah, if you want to know about the
Hopes.
globe, ask Catherine.
yeah.
Excuse me, I mean, Evelyn.
It has been a great journey. In a nutshell, it has been a great journey. I'm really, I think, proud of myself. I'm proud of the product that came out.
So in 10 years, where do we find you? In 20 years? In 50 years?
Well, definitely in 10 years you will find me somewhere in the higher education system anyway. After 10 years I retire, I would have done my job.
Okay, great.
I want to follow up on your phrase. I never knew that I would do a doctoral studies. You can you elaborate on that?
I think it ties with, how you perceive yourself. You don't have self-confidence because you don't have a voice. And as I said, having a self-confidence, having that voice, the voice that I know comes from within, the voice that I know I can open my mouth and say something about what I think, what my thinking is, then I knew at that time that perhaps a doctoral degree is not something far-fetched.
Good. Thank you. Good.
Wow.
Thank you.
Perhaps you want to share more with us. I will put this on YouTube, and many people might, from all over the world will see it. So what is your message to the world and to other students?
As I'm saying, I was in London 2 weeks back, and I found that students abroad have that voice, have their own voices. But I'm getting a different a perspective from you and saying perhaps not. But I would love to see our South African and African students. I think other African countries, students have that voice.
Yeah.
But still, as South Africans, we still are confined in a
How did that happen? It seems to be a historical kind of side effect of apartheid.
I think so. I don't know.
Even beyond apartheid, colonialism.
Yes, but the whole of Africa was
Yes,
colonized.
exactly.
But why is South
They
Africa
are
different?
locked in that system.
I think it's a mistake to conclude from meeting some students in London that in general in the world students have a voice and are doing real thinking, and it's only South Africa where they're not. I think the rest of the world is more like South Africa, and not as much like graduate work in London.
Absolutely. And there is a kind of artificial slickness,
Yes.
you know, and this comes across as confidence and as truthful speaking, but it's a kind of a culture, you know, when you are in a university in where privileged students go, they are used to have a voice from their families. They might not have thought a single authentic thought.
Yeah.
It's a bit kind of simplified, but still, you know, confidence doesn't mean authenticity.
But there's also an historical process, sometimes associated with the Bologna process of academic reorganization throughout the world. Where
Bologna process.
Yes,
Yeah.
where universities are thought of as businesses which have products and
customers,
and customers, and the so-called entrepreneurial university. And it's anticipated that in the world of the future, there will be many universities for the masses, and they will work closely with industry, where they will say, what is the profile of the kind of human resource that the industry is asking for, and then the universities will produce this according to the sort of walking through the competencies that they learn in order to be useful, and there'll be a close integration between business and the university, except in a few of the great old universities, they will then be research universities. And the research universities will be evaluated by how many patents they get, by whether the innovations they come up with result in marketable products. So there will be a few research universities. This, I think, is the global trend. But there are a few places in the world, like University of London, where they still have enough prestige from left over from the past that they're able to continue some of the older academic traditions. So we hope that by the time that you're running the world and we're all dead, that you will have found a way to fix this.
Please fix this.
recover
You know,
some of this ancient tradition that began in Mali. Actually, the first university in the world was in Mali, where the rulers of Mali assembled scholars to analyze sacred texts. We hope some of these older traditions of learning will somehow revive, and will be saved from the all of us becoming human resources instead of souls.
Right. You know, I have chosen Norway as one of my. You know, I'm living globally, and but Norway is one of my important platforms because Norway has a unique culture where equality and dignity and solidarity are a cultural heritage due to poverty and geopolitical marginalization. So it's not perhaps earned, it's a kind of side effect, but now it's a resource. And I see that when I'm in Norway, I see that more people think like we talk here now there than I see in other parts of the world, where historically very hierarchical systems have been evolving. Already Sweden is more hierarchical than Norway. So you know, I observe this trend that Howard describes, that somehow there is a kind of big machinery set up globally, and human beings are cogwheels, are supposed to be cogwheels within this big machinery, not human beings anymore. And that everything is somehow being changed to make this big machine work with all these cogwheels. And we are, you know, Howard and I, we just discussed this morning. What is going out of the window is the soul. It is social cohesion in its true meaning. It's Ubuntu. It's our humanity. It's also quality of work, quality of products. We were discussing this morning, and there is a very famous economic correspondent in London, Financial Times, Martin Wolf. He says it's like the spider wasp putting eggs into a spider, and then the larvae of the wasp will eat the spider from within. So this is what is happening now all over the world, that the quality, the soul, humanity is all eaten out.
Yes.
So please save the world.
I don't know if I'll be able to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Prof.